Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahu Akbar. Bismillah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله أوله بلا أول كان قبل وآخره بلا آخر يكون بعده الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وأجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا حبيبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين أبي القاسم محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين ولعنة الدائم على أعدائهم وغاصب حقوقهم ومنكر فضائلهم ومناقبهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين أما بعد السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all your fasting, your recitation of the Quran, your supplication, your du'as, your waking up for sahri, your preparing for food for your family, serving them at the time of sahar, mothers waking their children up for sahri, concern about them. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all your services to Husayniyas, to centers, to masajid, and may you all be rewarded in the best of reward in this dunya and in the hereafter. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase the daraja of all of your marhumin and bring them closer to Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. We were looking at the phenomena of justice, adl, and we said that it is a very important reality or phenomena or principle of our deen, particularly to the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Adalat is very important for us. Important from intellectual standpoint, important from the emotional heart, qalbi standpoint as well, because we said that it is the followers of Ahlul Bayt and the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam have suffered because of the injustices that have been taken place against them. So therefore, it allows us to be more watchful, to adhere to adalat. Adalat in our life, adalat in our society, in our community, and adalat to be extended outside, and to be from those who would wait for the sacred justice be established by Imam al-Asr alayhi salam. As it says that the earth will be filled with injustices and the hujjat will establish justice on earth. So we vouch for that, we adhere for that, we yearn for that, we do dua for that. So this requires a good understanding of this phenomena of justice and adl. Now, we mentioned that when we look outside in the nature, we see the adalat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because everything is in its proper place, because Allah puts everything in its proper place. When we look at the nature, the divine nature, right? The things have been placed in its proper place. But when we look at, for example, our life or human society or outside, we see injustices being taking place. Things are not put in the proper place. And that is our journey. That's what we are supposed to do. Because justice is based, as we said, justice is based on truth. Justice is based on haqq. And Allah is haqq, Allah is adil. Allah is haqq, Allah is adil. So therefore, as it is based on the truth, because of that very reason, as it is based on the truth, man by nature likes justice. Man by nature wants justice. However, he is stopped because of his lower nature, because of أَنَّ النَّفْسَ أَمَّارَةَ بِالسُّوءِ, because the nafs commands man to do evil. That's why when a fruit seller wants to sell a fruit, he may attach something to the mizan so that he could sell less and get more, right? He will be unjust towards selling that. Why? Because of his nafs is commanding to do that, and he knows that he is doing wrong from his nature, from his conscience. Where does that come from? That comes from the very soul. That comes from his very wujud and existence, which is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, because of that fitrah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have placed that in our heart, in our soul. This justice. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So it requires of man a, a journey for reaching that true nature of his, for bringing that justice out. It requires of that man, right? That's why we said that justice is the greatest virtue. So says behtareen akhlaq insan ka adalat hai. He needs that. That's the best thing, that he should be just. Because if he is too, for example, shuja, too courageous, too strong, then he could be a zalim. But he should be shuja, but at the same time he should be humble, so that it balances, right? He should be humble at the same. And that's what we find when it comes to Amirul Mu'mineen. He is the most courageous, but at the same time the most humble, right? The Prophet, the most courageous, very humble. Nobody recognized who the Prophet is. They couldn't recognize. People will come from outside. He said, we heard about a new Prophet. For them, their imagination was that, oh, Prophet is like somebody with special garment and attire and will be sitting on a throne or something. No, right? Very simple and very humble. People couldn't recognize them, right? So you have the element of shuja'at, knowledge, and at the same time you have the element of utmost humility and humbleness, right? Many examples are there. You can just imagine that. I usually tend to discuss things on the principle level. Stories and examples, hadith, riwayat, they are there which you could relate to, right? So now, as justice is based on the fitrah of man, as justice is based on the truth, and it is because of the truth, it requires a journey of ours towards the truth. And this journey of ours is that marifat, is that ilm. A jahil person, an ignorant person, is an unjust person. An alim person is a just person. If you list the leaders of the world, and when you look at their life, and when you look at them, whether they're just or unjust, if they are, you can tick box one after the other. They were all unjust. And when you say when they were unjust, that means they were jahil. They were in utter darkness and ignorance. So it is the ilm, it is the knowledge that will bring us to justice. To justice in us, and also to comprehend and understand the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the most critique, or one of the questions being raised, is upon the justice of Allah. If Allah is just and He is powerful, then why there is evil? If Allah is just and powerful, then why there is evil? Either Allah is not just or Allah is not powerful, right? If evil is existing, then and Allah does not have the power to control it. If Allah is there and He's allowing the evil to exist, then He's not just. Therefore, that kind of argument that therefore Allah doesn't exist. Either if Allah, you say if Allah exists, then Allah should have the power, and He does not have the power to control evil. So that means He's not powerful. When you guys say that Allah is all powerful, Inna Allah ala kulli shayin qadir, right? Then okay, fine. If evil is existing and as Allah is allowing, then He's zalim, right? So this is the argument. Now that's what I'm saying. It requires that ilm to understand and answer this. Knowledge is required to, you know, answer these questions. That yes, Allah is all powerful, right? No doubt about that, right? And He is just at the same time. On a superficial level, this evil that is coming is actually coming from you. Now, there are two types of evil. One, there's a type of evil which is social evil, corruption, injustice, social evil, corruption that we see, for example, right? The other is the type of evil, for example, which we may call it evil, is natural disasters, because of which some evil might happen, such as I lost my house because of the flood or earthquake or whatever and whatnot, right? So it's like a natural disasters. Now we may say that, okay, you are saying evil is existing is because you are saying, oh, okay, yes, because of man, because of human being, because of bad leaders, because of bad people, there is corruption, right? We can argue that, but what about these natural disasters? Why this is happening, for example? you know what is the purpose of this? Why is this happening? Allah is not controlling and this happens. Now the point is that we, like as we said, knowledge is needed, ilm is needed to understand that. This requires to understand the hikmat of Allah, the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is adil, and adil, and Allah is hakim as well. There's wisdom behind things, right? Everything happens for a wise reason, for a particular reason, and which is always, whatever the work of Allah is always good. Whatever Allah does is good. Whatever khair is there is because of Allah, and it is from Allah, right? So therefore, now it is the wisdom that we need to understand and comprehend. As they say that there is a story that, there was this farmer, and the farmer got upset because his son rode on the horse, which was wild, and then he came back and his leg was broken. There's a story, and which says that he was crying and he was upset. Oh, this happened. The next day, the soldiers came and knocked the door, and they said, we need to recruit soldiers in our army. And the farmer said, we want your son. And the farmer said, well, his son is here, but his foot is broken. He was crying one day before, now he's very happy. So everything, it is for a reason that happens. And it is for good. And Allah always wants good, right? Okay, that's one argument. That's one presentation, that Allah is just and Allah wants good all the time, and He's just. Then you have the story of Hazrat Khizr as well, which you can compare that. Hazrat Khizr, what he did and what not, with Musa alayhi salam, right? Right. Then you have the aspect of this dunya is a dunya where Allah says it is with mashaqqa, it is with fi kabat, in turmoil, in difficulty. This material world is dense, matter is dense. Light does not pass through the matter, right? Light does not pass through the matter. It's dark, it's dense. And that's how Allah created it to be. The reason why He created that to be that way is because of the test. Because there's no test in Jannah. No, we will not be tested in Jannah. Imagine if dunya was perfect and dunya was like Jannat. Where is the question of just? Where the question lies of test? If you want to train a soldier, you're not going to put him in a 5-star, 7-star hotel and train him to go to the jungles of Amazon. You're going to put him in the difficulty. You're going to train him with tough, training that the person goes through so that he becomes tough. Not that you give him food all the time and say, oh, what's going on? This is training going on. This is not training. Right? So this world is a place of test. This world is a place is to acquire higher virtues through going through this test. لِنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ أَحْسَنَ أَمَلًا خَلْقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ أَحْسَنَ أَمَلًا. I have created life and death in order to see, in order to test you who does the ahsan amal, who does the best amal. As Allah says, نَخْسُ الْأَمْوَالِ Jew, and I'll test you with the loss of fruits and famine and life, in order to see who are sabirin. Sabr is the greatest virtue that a man can acquire, and sabr is not acquired unless or until a person is tested. It is this fasting which is making us increase our sabr. Fasting allows us to gain sabr to the highest level in ibadat. That's why as-sawmu li wa ana ajzi. That's why Allah says fasting is for me and I will reward you for fasting. You know, Fasting helps us to gain this quality of sabr in us. Allah wants us to be sabr because Allah is sabr. Allah wants us to have all of those virtues, all of those attributes and qualities that He has. That's why Rasulullah says, "يَتَخْلُقُ مِنْ أَخْلَاقِ اللَّهِ." Make your akhlaq like the akhlaq of Allah. Rasul says, make your akhlaq like the akhlaq of Allah. Allah is Rahman, be Rahman. Allah is Rahim, be Rahim. Allah is Kareem, be Kareem. Allah is forgiving, be forgiving. Allah is generous, be generous. Right? So Allah is Sabir, be Sabir. So we have to gain these attributes and virtues. And through tests that we'll gain, through these difficulties that we go through in this dunya, that we gain. So that is because of the wisdom of Allah. It's not the question that Allah is not just or Allah is unjust. Allah is adil. And la yukallifullahu nafsan illa wusaha. And Allah have also mentioned that. Allah watches, He sees that how this abd and how this bande khuda, how this banda, reacts to these things. And He gradually tests him. And this is a tarbiyah model as well that we have and we should apply in our children, right? That how to do tarbiyat, we have to do the tarbiyat of our children the same way as Allah does tarbiyat of insan. That's the way to do tarbiyat. So we have to look at the models and how Allah is doing tarbiyat in the Quran, to the anbiya, to the awliya, to the close ones, those who have the capacity, those who do not have the capacity. Look at Prophet Ibrahim. Because of his deeper understanding of Tawheed, he was a champion of Tawheed, right? إِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ فَأَتَمَّهُنْ. One test after the other to Hazrat Ibrahim. One trouble after the other to Hazrat Ibrahim. For what? Right? So that he increases his darajah. So that he becomes an imam. After all of that test, we discussed imama when we were discussing imamology, we talked about that. To achieve that maqam and position, that person have to go through all of this imtihan that is provided, to that person. It's with sabr. That one, and this sabr, brings that understanding of adl, as we are discussing the topic of adl and adalat, justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I was just mentioning, coming with my nephew down here, a story of Moulana Raqi. Moulana Raqi was a great scholar of 20th century. And one of the books of his is Miraj al-Sa'adat, which is in Farsi. And there is Jami al-Sa'adat, which is in English and also been translated in English. And I think Islam.org have the translation of that. Moulana Raqi was in, I think, fasting, was even the month of Ramadan. At the time of breaking the fast, had nothing, for the family to break fast with, no food, right? And that's why, it comes with a lot of suffering. Ilm comes with suffering, with tests and trials and tribulation. Every person goes through a lot of difficulties. Then that person achieves or receives something after going that difficulties. The fashion is that not to go through difficulties and be jealous or be upset or yearn for or want something quick, easy money. No, it doesn't happen that way. There is a reason for all of that. One have to really struggle. Maranakhi the same way. All of the ulama in the past, they suffered, and that's because of that things have reached where it has reached, right? Because of all of that suffering. It's tough, it's difficult. And Allah opens the heart of our ulama and scholars to have deeper understanding of realities as well, right? I mean, our school of thought being this so strong, and we are, proud of this school of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, right? Is because of the sacrifices of scholars in the time of the major occultation that they have given. Saduq, Majlisi, Ansari, Naraqi, Sadra, all of these scholars, right? So Naraqi, anyway, cutting the long story short, Naraqi, he was very, iftar, nothing at home, so he left home. You know, he left and he came walking outside in Najaf, and then he reached Wadi Salam, and then he just walked in Wadi Salam. It's one of the biggest graveyard, right? May Allah give us tawfiq to go there, yeah, and the ziyarat of Najaf Amirul Mu'minin as well. So he sees a janaza was brought. Some people came and janaza, they kept it there. And they were in rush. And Naraki came, they saw Mullah. They said, Mullah, you take care, we are leaving. They left. They have to go somewhere or what. And he was alone, Naraki. Now he has to close the grave, then the janaza inside. Then he gets down, do talqeen. As he was doing talqeen, he saw a window in the grave open. And then he went inside. When he went inside, it was like barzakh, right? Right. And then there was this big garden and castle, and then stairs, and he walks upstairs, and there was this, courtyard. And then he saw somebody sitting on the throne. And this is the Mayyat. This guy who died is sitting there. Oh, mashallah. He must be a very good man. That's why he has all of this bagh and everything, and he's sitting on the throne. Must be very good. And these things are possible, as we discuss barzakh and eschatology. The realm of barzakh is connected to this world. That's why we see our marhumin coming to our dream, because from barzakh they came to this earth. They have been given that permission to come here and visit us in our dream. Or if a person's soul is very strong, he can enter barzakh. Just like how Mullah Naraqi, because of his purity, entered barzakh and he saw what was going on. It was not a dream, it was a reality. And usually when these type of things happen, it is very confusing. Was I awake or was I asleep? Allama Tabatabai says that, one more story and then I'll go back to Naraqi. Allama Tabatabai says that all my life, he had a lot of zameen and land in Tabriz. He came to Najaf to study. And because of the invasion of Russians and all that, it happened that nothing was coming to help and support to Allama Tabatabai, Sahib Mizan, the one who wrote Tafsirul Mizan. And he says that I was nothing, was suffering basically, right? And he goes to Amirul Mu'minin and he complains to Amirul Mu'minin. He says that, I've been suffering, you have forgotten us. He tells Amirul Mu'minin. And then the same night, while he was doing, studying, and then somebody knocks at the door. As somebody knocks at the door, he gets up and he goes and he opens the door. And this guy, he gives a bag of money to Allama. He says, who are you? I'm Shah Uli or Shah Ali or something. Gives a name. Right. He said, okay, Amirul Mu'min sent this. And he said, since you have worn the libas, we haven't forgotten you. Since the day you have started wearing the libas, we haven't forgotten. Right. This is a message from Ali, Imam Ali. He said, okay. And then he comes back and he sits, and then he says, what's happened? What was it? The bag is there. The man came, knocked the door, and he said this. And who was it? Is it a dream or is it reality? And the next day he was walking in the Wadi Salam. He reads a gravestone which says that, Shah Ali, who died 200 years ago. He came from Barzakh with the message of Imam Ali to Allama. So what I'm saying is that these are possibilities and realities of life. From Barzakh, there's a connection to this world. And from here to Barzakh as well. That's why there's a letter, I told this earlier as well, Sayyid Ali Qazi Tabatabai was a teacher of Allama Tabatabai. He told Allama that if you get stuck in any masala, you do an amal. When you do this amal, I will come from Barzakh and teach you. The same Qazi who gave Allama Tabatabai a zikr, story after story. Today is storytelling day. Salawat ala Muhammad wa alihi. Because it's holiday, Friday is holiday, so let's have storytelling day, yeah, inshallah. So here, Sayyid Ali Qazi was someone, you have heard this story before as well, but as a reminder for myself and all of us. Sayyid Ali Qazi Tabatabai was a great teacher in Irfan, in mysticism. And Sayyid Ali Qazi Tabatabai trained Allama Tabatabai. And Allama Tabatabai says that whatever Allama have is because of Qazi, is because of him. And Allama was amazing, right? Tafsir, 20-volume tafsir, and they say it's the best ever tafsir. The methodology of doing tafsir of Allama Tabatabai was Quran with Quran. He says that who can do tafsir of Quran? Not human beings, but Allah Himself should do the tafsir of Quran. So He uses the ayah of the Quran to do the tafsir of another ayah of the Quran. And Azhar, which is the seminary houza of Ahl Sunnah, Azhar University, they say that this is the best tafsir because it's a tafsir ayah of the Quran. And this methodology was the methodology of Qazi Tabatabai. He taught Allama, this methodology. So he gave a zikr to Allama Tabatabai because we are talking about connection of barzakh to the dunya. Right. So he gave a zikr chanting to do. And he said that don't just focus on the zikr, what you're chanting. Do not focus on anything that happens, heavens open and what you see and what not. Don't focus on that. Right. Do not get trapped with forms. Right. And then he was doing this zikr, because I remember just another story. That's why I smile. I'll tell you that as well. So here he was doing this zikr, and then all of a sudden he saw Hur coming from the heaven with a goblet of drink, sharab and tahura. And Allama is doing the zikr, right? And the Hur comes with the drink to Allama on the right side. He remembers Qazi have said not to focus on anything. The Hur comes from here and comes to the left side and offers the drink again. Allama did not pay attention to it at all, and the Hur left. They asked Allama Tabatabai, this is in Mehr Taban, the shining sun, which has been translated by ICAS, the Islamic College of London. They translated this textbook. This book is Mehr Taban in Farsi and Shining Sun in English. And it's written by Sayyid Muhammad Hussain Tehrani. Sayyid Muhammad Hussain Tehrani was a student of Allama Tabatabai, who died in Mashhad, and he was an Arif himself, right? So in this book, they asked Allama Tabatabai, were you ever, disappointed or upset in your life? And it's a good question to ask. They asked Allama Tabatabai, were you ever upset, in all your life? He said, yes, only once. And then he mentioned this story that the Hur came. And this is the first time he mentioned this story. So he said, I was very upset and disappointed. They said, why? Because you did not drink? He said, no, because I broke the heart of the Hur. That I did not accept. Because it's disrespect when somebody offers that you don't take. I mean, when you are fasting a mustahab fast, when a moment gives you, just take to keep the heart of the person. You break your fast. So Allama says that because of that, right? So there's a connection from barzakh to this world. And the connection, when the things descend from that world to this world, it takes forms, and it must take forms because we are living in the world of forms. If some ruh comes here, we don't see the ruh. It has to take a form, That's why, ajinnas, they take different forms. Sometimes they are cats, sometimes they are, animals, this and human beings, so on. So they have to take a human form that we could connect to, that we could relate to, because humans relate to certain wavelength. As they relate to certain wavelength, those things come in certain wavelength or in certain form. When Jibrail came to Maryam Salamullah alayha, Jibrail came in a form of a human being. In the Quran, it clearly says that. Right? Jibrail cannot come in its own real form. The earth does not have the capacity to have Jibrail in its real form. This is the physical world. The light doesn't pass through. Right? That's why the kamal of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is seen when we see Ahl Bayt in this world. That's the kamal of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? That's why they are. If you look at them, it's ibadat. If you do their zikr, it's ibadat. All is nothing but Ahl Bayt alayhim salam in this world. Right? Right? So it's that reality coming down onto this earth. You know what I mean? But at the same time, that is munazzah. That is la zawal. That is something else. And the Ahl Bayt are the creation and the abd. You know. So now Mullah Naraqi, going back onto that story, right? Now I forgot the other story which I remember. And it will come back to me. Salawatullah Muhammad. Yeah. Yeah, I remember now. Sayyid Qazi Tabatabai, he had, what do you call, obviously, he had control over Barzakh, right? He could be in different places. And there was this tailor, Khayyat tailor, who loved Sayyid Qazi very much. And he would come whenever Sayyid Qazi will pass through from his shop, he would come and respect him and would like him and would respect him. And Sayyid Qazi would say, well, pray Salatul Layl. He said, no, it's very difficult. I'm sleeping. It's very hard for me. So Sayyid Qazi says, don't worry, I'll wake you up. So he would be in his house and wake Sayyid Qazi up, But if it was me, I will put off the alarm and go back to sleep. Right. So Sayyid Qazi was like that. So a student came to Sayyid Qazi and he said, a malaika comes every morning to wake me up for Salatul Layl. Sayyid Qazi put his head like this and he said, you're still stuck in forms. You're still stuck in forms. You're still stuck with this malaika coming and all that. Tawheed is beyond all of that. That is the reality, right? This malak coming. That's why Qazi said to Allama that don't focus on any of this. Focus on, what is the truth, what is the reality. They asked Sayyid Qazi, Allama, about Tahlul Arz. Tahlul Arz is you travel from one place to the other. They asked him, do you know? He said, in Kare Pire Zan Hast, which means this Tahlul Arz is work of old lady and old people, who sit and, they bath, they do things and they do chit-chatting and all that. Tahlul Arz is that. It's not for us. Because for us is Tawheed. For us is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not to get into this, forms or hijab and whatnot. Right? Salat Allah Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Now, Naraqi says that I saw this and I saw this man every other, every few moments, something comes, a creature, and bites his feet. And he gets in pain. Although he has all of that thing, but this is happening to him. And Moulana Naraqi asked him, what is this? He says that there's some sort of loan that I had taken of somebody in the dunya. If you can please help me to take care of that when you go back to the world from Barzakh. And then he gives a bag of rice to Mullah Naraqi. Mullah Naraqi brings that rice and then he's in grave and with the bag of rice, once again, that sort of confusion, what it is, right? And it is usually personal. It's very individual. It's Mullah Naraqi who saw this. It's Mullah Naraqi who have this rice. The possibility of this rice seeing others is there. That's how I would interpret, I visited the Ashur Khana here of a brother. There was blood in the alam and all that. It should be respected. And these type of things happen. It has happened in the past and it does happen. And these are the ways for us to teach and tell us that we are here. The presence of Hussein is here. These are ways to tell us and teach us that maybe we are going too much in the opposite direction. It is time to return back. These type of things, these type of, they call it mojizeh. It's not really mojizeh. Mojizeh is something that is, this is karamat. Mojizeh is done by the prophets. The Masumin, they do karamat. That's the terminology. This is karama actually, but whatever is khariqul adh is very unique. We call that mujizah. Anyway, so it's a connection of that barzakh to this world, right? So this Naraqi was given this rice, and he would bring it, and he cooked it, and and the smell spread in the neighborhood, and everybody said, "Wow, where did you buy this rice from? It's so good," right? And then he also shared with others. The taste was unique and special. And this rice never finished because it's connected to the rizq of Allah. It's from Barzakh. The rizq in Barzakh never finishes, right? So therefore, as it was connected to this dunya, to that world, right? And it was always. And eventually it was with him for years, right? And then some people, some guest came, or family members or somebody, they came and they told, what do you call, the wife, what is it all about? Then the wife informed what it was. As the wife informed what it was, that thing stopped. That thing stopped. So what I'm trying to say is that these type of things have been seen in the past and also present. The connection of the barzakh with this dunya, it happens, right? So that was naraqi, right? And when, as we live in this dunya, in this physical world, because that's where we kind of departed from our discussion, this physical world has its own laws that it is governed with, and it is part and parcel of this dunya. When there is a famine, when there is an earthquake, when there is something happen, it is meant to be painful for us, just because I lost. And this losing something is very relative. The pain goes back to us. As they say, the farmer, he was in the in the farm, the wolf came and ate the farmer, and took the meat to the children of the cubs who were hungry. They were also hungry as well. They were very happy. The cubs were very happy because they got some food. But here, on the other hand, the farmer, the children become orphans here. This dunya have action and reaction, and this always will be there. And this is how it's supposed to be. It's not the question of injustice being taking place, right? They, so therefore, these things that we are seeing is part and parcel of these earthquakes and whatnot, what it happens. Now, as this is from Allah, it's part and parcel. But for us, we've been asked to establish justice. And that's what the ayah of the Quran is. Allah will provide guidance. Allah have sent the prophets in chapter number 57, which is Surah Hadith, in which it says, وَأَقِيمُ النَّاسَ بِالْقِسْطِ, in order that the people, and we have sent the prophets and the revelation, in order that the people, they establish justice. It is responsibility of ours to establish justice and to understand justice. And that requires our ilm. Allah is just, and Allah is justice. He is just, He is adil, and He is adil as well. But for us, we have to establish that. For us, we have to take that journey. We have to take that. Now, that journey is based on that knowledge. We think that justice only comes about with, as a social phenomena. No, even if we are living in a cave, seeing nobody, justice should be established in my own self first. That's why La ilaha illa ant, subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin. I could even do zulm upon myself, and I could not fully utilize the nafs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have given me, and I'm doing zulm on my nafs. That is against justice. And then after that, obviously, justice is with the family members, justice is with the community and outside, right? One have to take that stand of justice and try to establish it, right? And Amirul Mu'mineen, in the letter of Malik Ashtar, that's what he says. What an amazing letter, which also the Charter of UN Charter, apparently they also have that letter. What he advises, in the very beginning, he says that make your relationship with God the best, in the just way. First thing. So my relation with God should be based on justice. What is that? I should know my awqat, who I am. Ya ayyuhan nas antumul fuqara ila Allah. Inna Allah ghaniyul hamid. Wa insan, you are faqir. You are an abd. That's your reality. My relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a relationship of ubudiyat, is of servitude. I am an abd and He's the ma'bud, right? I am zaleel and He's the one who is aziz, the one who gives honor. Me, I'm nothing. That's how I should be in terms, and that is justice. Because justice means putting things in its proper place. Everything is placed in its proper place. What is my proper place? My proper place is that I'm haqir, I'm faqir, I'm dal, and he is hadi. Munajat Amirul Mu'mineen, which we are kind of reminding each other of, right? So that's the proper place, and that's where the justice begins, right? To begin with me and with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why in the same letter in another hadith, which echoes that if your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is intact, then your relationship with others will be intact by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I make my relationship with Allah good, then Allah will make my relationship with others very good. If I just worry about my relationship with others, then that is a hijab. I'm thinking of not of Allah but of others. Right? So I gotta be careful of. So first is my relationship with Allah, and at the same time, not that okay, I am just my relationship with Allah 24/7. I'm the Janimas not taking care of my wife and children. No, you know, because al izzatu lillah wa li rasulihi wa lil mu'minin. When I do an izzat of a mu'min, I'm doing izzat of Allah. Right? No, I just want to do the izzat of Allah. No, I just want to honor Allah. No, you have to honor a mu'min. And when you honor a mu'min, that honor is the honor of the Prophet. That honor is the Prophet, honor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because all mu'mineen are aziz to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah loves all His creation. Allah loves mu'mineen and mu'minat. Right? So we have to love each other. We have to respect each other. We have to honor each other. Through this, we are honoring Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are celebrating, the honor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through that. Salat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Just one step, one more very quickly, because I know we are closing to the time of our prayers. And that is, one of the things which Allah does not like, and Amir al-Mu'mineen have mentioned this in the letter of Malik Ashtar, and that is, do not be arrogant. Do not do takabbur. Mutakabbir, which is the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it only belongs to Him. And man does not have that, does not have the right to be mutakabbir. There's a khutbah qasiyah in Nahj al-Balagha. Why? Because Amir al-Mu'minin talks about that in khutbah qasiyah. Why? Because shaitan is the one who did takabbur vis-a-vis the command of Allah. Allah asked shaitan to do sajda. The sajda is not because, of Adam as such, is nafaqtu fihi min ruhin. One. Number two is the command of Allah that one is supposed to do that sajda. Is that honor, and the command. And what he did on the other hand, he was takabbur. When a person becomes arrogant, is, as we said, a person who is arrogant, he is not just. A person who is arrogant, his knowledge is less. Fir'aun was mutakabbir, and he was arrogant, right? He was arrogant. And when he is arrogant, that means he does not have knowledge. How come he does not have knowledge? He's so dumb that he jumps into the very darya, into the very river of Nile where Musa is crossing. Obviously, you're going to drown. It's a 2 + 2, 2. 2 + 2, 4. You know what I mean? So it's simple. But he was so ignorant, and he was so, jahil. Although, why? Because he did takabbur. When a person does takabbur, the quality of intellectualization diminishes. One gives away that quality, by that doing takabbur. So once again, one of the things that would allow us to understand justice and to have adl in our life is that we embark upon the gaining our knowledge and ma'rifat, and not be mutakabbir. Be humble. Humility and humbleness, that's been prescribed so much, right? As we see the Ahl Bayt alayhi salam, they themselves were the one who were utterly humble, in front of the creation. The element of humility is the element of rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The element of kibr, takabbur, is the element of wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And justice pertains to the mercy of Allah, not to the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah wants everyone to enter paradise. Allah wants everyone to enter Jannah. It is the people, because of their free will themselves, they go towards Jahannam. But Allah have, and there's a need of Jahannam as well, right? If there be a mayor, the mayor of the city wants everyone to do good, but he makes a prison as well, just in case. Because we know that people are, of dark nature. And the earth have been created in that fashion that it does have that dark nature. I think it's time now to finish, inshallah. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi tahirin.